I just got back from watching Past Lives in theaters with my friend, and now I can't stop thinking about it, and I'm wondering if that's a bad thing. I actually felt myself start spiraling about it on the drive home. I was listening to the soundtrack in my car, so as soon as I got home I went for a run, and now I'm here and I want to talk about it. So Past Lives is a film about a Korean American woman named Nora, and it's about this relationship that she has with her first love, who she left behind in Korea after she immigrated when she was little. The film follows both of these two people as they grow older, but especially Nora, and they reconnect after 12 years, and then another 12 years they reconnect again. The whole premise of the film is hinged on this Korean belief called inyon, which I think originated in Buddhism, they said in the movie. But the whole idea of inyon is every person that you interact with in your life, every person that you have a connection to, even if the connection is as small as like brushing someone's shoulder in the street, you have a series of past lives with them. In some way they were important to you in all of your different layers of your past lives. Nora is connected to her first love because he's the only other person besides her mother that she speaks in Korean to. And he carries this part of her that her current partner and other people in her life will never really see. He holds this capsule of her and capsule of even her culture that she left behind. So even though him and Nora don't end up together in this life, in the film they talk about that in their past lives there must have been so many layers in which things worked out for them. There was a part that really got me. It's this conversation between the two of them, and he says something like, "I'm glad that you left Seoul. This country is big enough for you and your ambition. I'm realizing that what made me love you was you, and the you that I love would not be you if you hadn't left. In this life you are you because you are doing the leaving." I've noticed that all of my attention around art lately has been about people who want to be together but can't because of some kind of complex situation or complex dynamics. I'm especially drawn to it when it comes to things that don't work out because of belief systems or ambition or just generational trauma. I've done the leaving and I've been the one that's been left, and it's interesting to me that in both of those situations that I've been in, I am so unforgiving of the person that did the leaving. It feels like lately all of my life has been centered around these past lives, these what ifs. What could have happened if I had stayed the same person? What could have happened if I stayed with this person? What would have happened if I continued to be the girl that I was at that time? In the situation in which I did the leaving, a simple way to put a really complex situation is that I left because I outgrew the person that I was when I was with him. And so going back and thinking about that relationship and that person is like a way of grieving my past self. C.J. Hauser put it in a good way in her memoir and essay book called The Crane Wife, which I finished recently. She wrote that connecting with an old love is like connecting with an old capsule of yourself, a girl who is different and was so loved. In Past Lives, Nora says something to the same effect that C.J. Hauser was writing about. She says, "The girl that you knew back then doesn't exist anymore, but it doesn't mean that she isn't real. I left her there with you." Normal People, which is another book that I've been obsessed with reading and rereading recently, kind of hinges on that same point, especially the ending. It has kind of the same thesis. Sally Rooney writes, "She closes her eyes. He probably won't come back, she thinks. Or he will, differently. What they have now, they can never have back again. But for her, the pain of loneliness will be nothing to the pain that she used to feel, of being unworthy. He brought her goodness like a gift, and now it belongs to her. Meanwhile, his life opens out before him in all directions at once. They've done a lot of good for each other. Really, she thinks, really. People can really change one another. You should go," she says. "I'll always be here. You know that." We will never be the same thing twice. I'm never going to be the same version of myself that I am today with the people that are in my life today. And for some reason, I can't get over that concept. I can't stop thinking back on the past. I can't stop grieving yesterday enough to live my life as it's going on today. I keep consuming art about this. I mean, even think about Everything Everywhere All at Once. There's that line, "In another life I would have liked just doing laundry and taxes with you." Like, God, I don't know why the concept tears me up. There's so many versions of the life that I'm creating right now, and it terrifies me. I think it's such a compelling topic to write about for that reason, because it is the only constant thing in life is change. But is it good for me is what I keep thinking. On my run just now, I was listening to the new Macy Peters album, and on the first song there's a line. Macy sings, "Am I better yet? When all I do is think about the past. create a space that you can live in. And in a way, looking back on the past is me creating a space for these people to live in my life in roles that they no longer have. And the more I think about that, the more I'm not sure how healthy that is for me to keep creating spaces for people to live in by reminiscing on the past so much when all I think about is the past. A lot of it comes from the same psychic wound that I keep talking about, the wanting to be loved, wanting to be needed so badly that I don't see the actual life in front of me, the joy and the love that I can extract from just creating a life to live in every day. I will never be the same thing twice, but isn't that a good thing? Do I really want to continue being my 17-year-old self that I was when I was in love with this person? I keep asking myself, why do I want to keep living in these phantom versions of myself? I think a lot of it comes from looking back and thinking about the versions of me that were loved in this whole and romantic way. Being in the relationship was a way for me to escape self-love in a way, because I felt my whole self validated and saw myself as worthy of love and worthy of life because somebody else thought that I was. Somebody else loved me. Continually living in the past is a way for me to go back and think, God, she was lovable. I recently started reading Acts of Desperation by Megan Nolan, and I think she puts it in a really great way. She writes, "Being with other people was, to me, the feeling of being realized. This is why I wanted to be in love. In love, you don't need the minute-to-minute physical presence of your beloved to realize you. Love itself sustains and validates the rotten moments you would otherwise be wasting while you practice being a person, pacing back and forth in your shitty apartment, holding off till 7 to open the wine. Being in love blesses you with a kind of grace. Being in love was like that to me, a shield, a higher purpose, a promise to something outside of yourself. The truth is, my past selves were loved deeply in a way that I'll never be able to replicate because I am no longer that person that they loved. And living inside these phantom versions of myself, these capsules through these memories, is another way of lying to myself about who I am. This whole thing gets a lot trickier as soon as you start taking apart the argument a little bit more and take it outside of yourself. Of course, all these people in your life that you loved are not just shells of people that are carrying around past versions of you. They're also their own people. You're a capsule carrying around pieces of their life. There are so many past lives that you carry around for all the people that you love, and they don't just disappear. It's especially tricky outside of romantic relationships. Romance is not the only kind of homesickness. I think homesickness is a great way to put it, because in a way I feel like love is just creating a home inside of someone, and you have to grieve that loss over and over and over and over again. I read another book recently called Another Marvelous Thing that has this line that I think sums it up well. There are some cases in which love is not a good or sufficient reason for anything. The fact is, love is undeniable. Yes, love is undeniable, and that's the tricky point. I don't have answers. I feel like I am an observer of my brain most days. I'm just looking down at my life right now and noticing the things that I keep noticing the art that I keep consuming, the things that I keep underlining in books. The world feels so full of loss right now. There are so many different lives that I'm grieving, different versions of myself that I keep returning to. Overall, I'm just trying to shift my perspective on love and loss, and I'm trying to see my capacity for love and my tendency to run headfirst into love not as a weakness, but a power that I have yet to learn how to wield. I think I want to exist in a place where I can look back on my past lives and not necessarily mourn them, but hold space for them the same way that I hold space for today. John Green says it well. It has taken all of my life up to now to fall in love with the world. I want to look away from feeling. We all know how loving ends. But I want to fall in love with the world anyway, to let it crack me open. I want to feel what there is to feel while I am here.